we're trying to figure out what he's going to do. So this is going to be a session of informed speculation. What we do know, just laying the groundwork here, Mark, is he's played 3-4-2-1 throughout most of his career. It's a back three. Obviously, you can call them wing backs, you can call them wide players. It's semantics. The two behind the strikers are not wingers, or at least that's not where they operate. They operate narrow. And so when we look at this United team, we ask ourselves, is he going to have to teach people to play new positions? You had this great line in the piece we did together, which I invite people to check out, where you said he needs, what did you say? You said he needs
square pegs to go in round holes. But he needs square pegs, but all he has is round pegs.
Right, to fit his round holes.
Exactly.
All right, so let's try to figure this out. Now, first of all, on the formation, I'm going to lay out the possibility that he might not play 3-4-2-1 straight away, but that he can have some of the concepts of his 3-4-2-1. Because the other thing, which I think is important to know, is United need to move back up the table. Now, right now, you're going to be all gloom and doom. Oh, look, they're 13th. They're only 4 points out of third place.
Absolutely.
And they have 27 games in which to make it up. And they can turn around the Europa League as well and whatever else, right? So there's still a lot to play for. How important is it that he gets the results this season? He can't just say, I'm writing this off because I'm building for next year.
Oh, he has to get results this season. It's all about momentum, isn't it? If he comes into United and they have a really difficult rest of the season and finish mid-table, if they climb from 13th to 10th, that's not great. So you have to go into next season with belief and confidence that your new coach has the right idea. So he will have to make a decision very quickly about his formation. I think we've looked at the squad, and this is the whole process today, that we've looked at the squad, and it's very difficult to see how his preferred formation works with the players he's got. He doesn't really have the players required to play that system. If anything, he's got players that aren't suited to the system.
Yeah.
So it's going to be difficult. But
so the question is going to be, does he stick to the system or does he?
I think he will start with the system. I think he has to. I think he said already that he expects from day one this to be his team, his squad, his ideas. So having said that, it would be very strange if he goes to Ipswich at the weekend.
His ideas doesn't necessarily mean a system, right? Well, I guess the alternative would be if you were to play a 4-3-2-1, a Christmas tree, right?
Yeah.
Some of the things that we're going to talk about, maybe Bruno operating deeper in the three, having the two guys behind the striker be your main kind of people pressing from central positions. You can do that in a 4-3-2-1. You can put some of those concepts in place and then transition later. I'm just saying that is an option if he feels that those square pegs don't fit.
Yeah, the issue is, I just think it'd be a big surprise if in his first game he went to a back four. I just think he will look at what he's got and think,
All right, let's give it a shot.
Yeah, Martinez can play left side of a three.
Martinez,
okay. You could play the late Tom Maguire at the centre. And the right side of the back three is the tricky one. I mean, I think you think that Dallow's an option. I'm not so sure.
Well, I think long term, we both agree it's Lenny Euro, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, the guy's only just come back into training.
Yeah. So
and it's a new league.
Yeah.
And he just turned 19 earlier this month.
Yeah, you can't drop in at the first game at Ipswich. You just can't. It's just, it's not fair on the kid. So I think you look at Lindelof or Dallow. So neither is an ideal solution because Lindelof's contract expires in the summer, so you can't really, build your back three around a guy that's not going to be there. And Dallow, he's a frustrated winger. He's not a defender. He doesn't really have a defensive instinct, even though he's a right back. So I think whichever way he goes with that, it's a problem.
So one of the arguments for Dallow, should that be a deal? Again, we're saying it's going to be Euro long term if things work out. One of the arguments might be possibly that his center backs, they were kind of the main ball progressors into midfield, his outside center backs. That was a big part of their jobs. They just carried the ball forward, which Dallow can do. And then you had the defensive midfielder dropping. And I'm just putting that as an alternative because you can put Lindelof there. Can Lindelof do that? I agree with you. Does it make sense to teach Lindelof this? And also, by the way, in terms of coaching and getting people to adapt to new positions, that's what a good coach does. But a good coach needs time on the training pitch. United have a very congested fixture list.
Yeah, I think Lindelof's a better option at that because he's a defender. And he's decent on the ball, Lindelof, but I think defensively he's suspect. But one thing that may play in his favour, Amorim played with him at Benfica, so he knows him as a player. He might have ideas about how to get the best out of him, where he's comfortable, and he might just be able to get something out of Lindelof that we've not seen under the 17 managers he's played for at United since he arrived. My option, and I think, again, this doesn't really help in terms of the long term, but United's best, most consistent defender of the last 18 months has been Johnny Evans. Now, Amorim could play Johnny Evans at the centre of that three because his calmness and experience will bring out the best in Lisandro. I think Matthijs de Ligt and Lisandro, they can't play together because they go after the same balls. They're both quite rash. But he may have to do that because de Ligt is the guy that they've signed for big money this summer. He's got a long-term contract. Harry Maguire, Johnny Evans, Lindelof are all out of contract in the summer. So can he really go with a guy that's out of contract next summer and basically ignore?
I'll answer that. I think the answer is no. I think you have to give de Ligt every opportunity to win the job in your back three, given the club's investment on him. I think the club were looking at him even when they signed de Ligt. They knew it was a possibility. He's taken the job looking at what he has. I think he's going to give de Ligt every opportunity.
Do you not agree in the sense that him and Lisandro are very similar in the balls?
No, I don't.
Do you not agree?
I mean, look, I think both can be rash. De Ligt can be clumsy. But I think right now, if he would be happiest if come March or April, his back three is Lisandro, de Ligt, and Lenny Yoro. And then if he needs to upgrade in the summer, then maybe brings in a central defender that fits that bill, knowing that, well, he's going to have to bring people in anyway because he's going to need more than three center backs. And obviously, as we mentioned, Maguire, Lindelof, and Evans are all out. And let's talk instead about the two guys in front of... Sorry, let's talk instead about the wing backs, because this is where you and I, when we were talking about this, we disagreed a little bit. You think it's pretty much a no-brainer who his wing backs are going to be?
Initially, it has to be Dalot and Mazraoui because they're both fit right now. They both have a defensive element to the game, even though I've just said that Dalot's not great defensively, but, you know, they are defenders. Luke Shaw's not fit. I think, you know, if Luke Shaw gets fit, I think he's the option on the left. I just think for that system and because of the situation, because of the weaknesses you've got in the centre midfield, you need wing backs who can defend. I don't think you can play a Marcus Rashford or an Anthony or an Amad Diallo or a Garnacho in those positions because I just don't think they'll contribute defensively.
So what I would counter to that is, like, I think both are very competent wing backs, very competent fullbacks, and I think Mazraoui's actually been among United's better players this year. And you know I'm a Dalot guy, but when I look at the way he was set up at Sporting this season, one of his wide players, I mean, he's gotten around a little bit because obviously in the first season he had Pedro Porro and I'm blanking on the other one, but they were actually, you know, wing backs. But this year, for example, we're seeing Kenda play, who's 17 years old, who is certainly played forward until this season. He converted him into that position. So that makes me wonder about if that isn't how he sees that position. The other point I would make is Mazraoui and Dalot are both right-footed. And one of the things, again, it's a bit different with Kenda because he does come inside, but one of the things that he likes to have sometimes with both wing backs, but sometimes just with one, is crosses into the box. And he's big on these people providing width. So to do that, you'd be better off with a left footer on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
And that is what then got me thinking. He's converted wingers into this role before. Amad Diallo is left-footed. He has a lot of energy. Could this be a project where he becomes a candidate for that? I mean, Anthony's the other one, but we think that ship has sailed. Could he be a candidate for that left side position?
It could be, because it would certainly give you attacking qualities. But we talk about Kenda being 17. Now, this might be a left field suggestion, but United got Harry Maas.
Yes.
17-year-old left back who is very highly thought of at the club. And he went on the summer tour. Eric Ten Hag played him on the summer tour and then completely overlooked him once the season started. Now, you know, Luke Shaw was 17, 18 when he started at Southampton. If Amorim thinks that Maas has got it in him, give him a go.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting he's going to start straight away, but I think you've got a couple of games. You've got some Europa League games, or you've got Carabao Cup ties where you could try him out. But I wouldn't rule it out because he's left-sided and he could play in that role if he's got the backing and he's got a manager who believes in him.
On the right, I would think Mazraoui would be favored also because one of the things that, again, often one of his wing backs, like we said, they deliver crosses, but also one of his wing backs usually has license to come inside. And in that respect, Mazraoui's very good at that. He's played midfield in the past. We even saw him at number 10 in the Europa League, right?
Did well as well.
So I would expect him, we were in agreement, he's probably favored for that left for that right side. at least initially, over Dalot.
He's a better player than Dalot. He's more rounded. I think Mazraoui has to be the right-sided player if he's fit.
What about converting one of United's right-footed wingers, who also happen to be some of their more high-profile players, Alejandro Garnacho or Marcus Rashford, into that right-side wing-back?
No. I just don't think they give enough from a defensive perspective. I think if we're looking for an option on the right that hasn't been mentioned yet, I think, again, if he's fit, I think Mason Mount would do a shift there. You can't question Mason Mount's energy, his work ethic, his industry, but he's never fit. But I do think he could be.
He's also played centrally for most of his career.
Yeah, he has, but I think Mason Mount is a player that will do that. I just think he would offer more in that position than Rashford. I think you have to give Rashford a chance, but I think you play him in the 3 up front.
Okay, we'll get to that. In terms of the 2 in front of the in front of the defense, again, normally one tends to be a very defensive-minded player. The other one's been somebody more box to box. What they share, and you've seen them recently, they share a lot of dynamism.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at United's options, you have Christian Eriksen, of course, is going out of contract in the summer. I think we can slightly park him. You would think it's some combination of Ugarte, Casemiro, and Mainu.
Yeah.
How do you see them fitting what he wants? Bearing in mind also he's worked with Ugarte before.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw him, I thought Hjulman was the guy that gave him the legs between box to box. And I think his system needs somebody who can do that. Now, I think Kobbie Mainoo is a great player. He's a real talent. You can see a pass, he can dictate the tempo of a game. But one thing he hasn't got is pace. He's not got a burst of energy. He's very much one-paced. So I don't think he can do the box to box. But I think you have to get Kobbie Mainoo into the team. But with Ugarte, I think he's similar. But I think Ugarte and Mainoo have to be the pick.
Which you say Ugarte is similar to Mainu?
In terms of lacking pace, in terms of lacking that ability to get box to box. And then you've got Casemiro, who again, but I don't think we can. I think Casemiro has to be the third option. I don't think either of Mainoo or Ugarte is ideal in that box to box role, but I think you have to work with those and try and find a way.
But surely Ugarte is better in the deeper defensive midfield role, no?
Yeah, he is. He can play that role, but I think.
And surely we can probably lock him in, given he's already played in the system.
But if Mainoo isn't your box to box guy with the energy, do you just? I'd put Mainoo in ahead of Ugarte if you had a midfielder who'd do the box to box. I think,
but you don't have one.
No,
so,
absolutely, that's the
so
problem.
who's your 2?
It's got to be Mainoo and Ugarte. It's not a perfect solution. It's an imperfect solution, but that's what he's got at the moment.
Mainoo also coming back from injury. We may not see him in his first game, and maybe Casemiro. I know Casemiro.
Another option, by the way, is Lindelof. Again, Lindelof is versatile.
Lindelof in midfield.
If you
Lindelof with 6 months left in midfield.
Yeah, but because Mainoo's not fit, I'm just saying that extra option if you need it.
The very dynamic Lindelof in midfield.
Well, exactly.
Okay.
But this is the problem we've got. There's no ideal solution. This is what he's going to walk into and think, wow, I've not got a lot of ideal options here.
There is another option, which some people have talked about, is dropping Bruno Fernandes into that 2. Now, the reason you would do this, and this transitions us to the front, and by the way, let's just get the center forward position out of the way. We all agree it's going to be Rasmus Højlund. There isn't much to talk about there. Yeah. It's not that Xerxes is bad, even though some people, i.e. you, think that he kind of is. It's that Højlund has the characteristics that are closest to the center forwards that he's worked with in the past. We agree on that, right?
Yeah, he's 21 years old. He's not the finished article, but look what Amorim did with Gyökeres at Sporting in 18 months. A guy who is, a lot older than Højlund, mid-20s. So... Right. Okay. United fans should be optimistic that Amorim could find something in Højlund and develop him that he's not been able to do so far.
I think Højlund is a more intelligent player than Gyökeres. I think he's more unselfish. Gyökeres is stronger, maybe faster too. But I think Højlund is a great fit, great person to work with anyway. So in terms of the 2 number 10s, so again, from what I've seen, and generally the 2 number 10s, they're not necessarily both number 10s. And what I mean is we call them number 10s because that's the position that they occupy behind the striker. Certainly he's had Pedro Gonçalves there, who is a number 10. He's a very dynamic, runs around a lot for number 10. The other one is he's adapted Trincao. Yeah, Barcelona fans, no laughing in the back. Yes, it is the same Trincao who was a winger and now kind of operates behind in that number 10. So people can learn new positions. What they have in common, though, is they give you a lot of work rate, and they really are the first defenders. The concern people will have is, well, Bruno plays number 10. Like, he's the best player at United. He's has the long-term contract. Let's put him in the number 10. I don't know that work rate and movement necessarily suits Bruno's game That's one concern. And then obviously we have to fill the other position where I'm assuming Garnacho, Rashford, maybe Amad Diallo are going to be candidates for that role.
Yeah, and you've identified the problems there. It's very talented players, but do they work hard enough, or do they work? Do they work well in terms of do they work smart? I think Bruno does put the work in, but sometimes it's a little bit scatty in terms of what he does.
Well, you also don't what he's been in terms of what he's asked to do. I don't want Bruno sprinting 50
No.
times a game because I want him to be fresh when he gets the ball.
You know,
Right?
I think Bruno's 30 now, and I think, let's be honest, he's been United's best player for 3 or 4 years, but he hasn't won what he wanted to win, and maybe
He plays for United.
well, exactly. But maybe Amorim coming in, it might just be the coach that he needs. You know, obviously he's Portuguese. There might be an understanding there, but I think Amorim might be able to say to Bruno, I said, look, this is the situation we're in now. I need to change your game a little bit. And you mentioned playing in the 2. He'd be the dynamic box-to-box guy in that 2. I think he will get the best out of Bruno Fernandes, but I don't know where it is. I think
Right.
it might be in the 2 midfield, but I don't. Long term.
That again, long term with a guy who's 30, but yes, I take your point. That is something. That is an option, but the more conservative, the safer option,
Yeah.
let's assume we think Bruno will be one of the 2, right?
Yeah.
Behind the striker.
Yeah,
Who is the other one?
I think you start with Rashford because, you know, Rashford's 27 now. Is it a point in his career? Maybe past the point in his career where he has to kind of prove he's the player that we thought he was. He might have gone past it, but there's still a player there. He's a goal scorer. I think Rashford over the last couple of years he didn't have a great relationship with Erik ten Hag, and I think it showed in his performances. If Amorim can motivate Rashford and get the best out of him, he's still a very good forward. But those days are beginning to look in the rearview mirror. Have we seen the best of Marcus Rashford? But Garnacho and Diallo are still young enough. You know, they're still young enough to kind of develop. That I think they're both 20, 21. I think with Rashford, you haven't got time to waste. If you start with that Rashford, it's a signal that his time's up. But if his time is up, you've got to find someone to take him away. So ideally, you'd try and get the best out of Marcus Rashford.
Well, I would assume that Amorim, when he sat down, he had a plan.
Yeah.
And I would assume that the plan is going to be Rashford is a big asset to the club.
Mhm.
We'll try to teach Rashford that position. We'll see how well he does in it. Equally, I think a lot of coaches, you look at Garnacho and Diallo, younger players are sometimes easier to teach.
Yeah.
They're more adaptable. They'll do more for you in terms of sacrificing themselves. Not because Rashford is a bad person, but simply because it's easier for you to learn when you're 21, 22 than when you are 27, right?
That is right. But when Rashford was 20, 21, he was let down by the club in many ways, by the people that he was asked to work with, the coaches that didn't get the best out
I
of
knew
him.
you were going to bring up the past.
No, but it's true. I think Marcus Rashford
Okay.
is a player that could have been so much better had he been coached
Right.
properly at a younger age. And I think,
Let's look forward now.
but I'm looking forward. He's now got a coach who I think will bounce off Rashford. I think Rashford just likes to have belief and faith in somebody. He never had that with Ten Hag. I think with Amorim, Amorim has the personality to get the best out of Rashford. It may be wishful thinking. I think this is Rashford's last chance, really. If it doesn't work for him now under Ruben Amorim, I think that's it. There has to be parting of the ways. But I do think there's still enough in Marcus Rashford. He's still got great pace. He can still score great goals. He's still got a passing that can open the door. But we haven't seen it because I think he's just not felt like he's had the respect or the affection of a manager to get the best out of him. So, yeah, I think Amorim will
I
start
love
with
the
Rashford.
fact you've got such a man crush on Marcus Rashford.
No, I
This
don't.
is one
It
of your
frustrates me.
favorite topics.
It
No,
frustrates me.
we're talking about United as a whole. And we spent so much time talking about Marcus Rashford. No, I agree. He's in the mix. I think it's going to be interesting. I want to take it to Bruno just because we touched upon it. Bruno playing deeper. You get a lot of the benefits with Bruno with the dead balls. Again, it's a new position for him. I don't think, given he's going to have 3 center backs behind him, Bruno defensively, you're going to worry about it so much because you have a defensive midfielder and you've got the 3 center backs. It is an ask. It still makes him central to the team. I know other people have floated this possibility. I genuinely don't know how much Amorim's an experiment with that, but I think it is an option to look at. I wonder if maybe if he doesn't go with the back 3, if he doesn't feel that they're ready personnel-wise to do that, I would float the possibility of a 4-3-2-1 with Bruno as kind of that third midfielder.
Yeah.
And again, you can say, well, it's the same as it is now. Well, no, it's not, because the wingers are going to be asked to do something different. The two behind the striker are going to be asked to do something different. It's going to be a different system, and it's going to have some of the concepts that will apply when he feels ready to go 3-4-2-1. Just throwing that as an alternative.
No, I think that's the way. I think that is the formation he should go with. I'm not sure he'll start with it. I think he might evolve into that because you have to work with what you've got. You can't impose a system on players who aren't suited to it. Well, you can, but it'll end up in disaster. It won't work. So I think Amorim is smart enough to realise that with what he's got, he has to go with the back four in that system that he suggested, because it gets the best out of what he's got. And that best, as you've seen it briefly under Ruud van Nistelrooy, it can actually get results, albeit at 4 home games. But they have got a bit
Leicester.
yeah, exactly. But still, that you could they played a slightly different way. They're more front foot and they're more confident. So I think
that's what gets me. They play more front foot, but then when you're talking, right, you're saying like, oh no, you don't want Dalot in the back three because you want proper defenders. You want wing backs or proper defenders. You want central midfielders who can defend and whatever.
You just want some solidity. I think we never had that under Ten Hag. We never
but
saw that.
But you could be front foot solid too, right? And create chances and so on.
The players need to believe that their system works, and I think. It's 4 points to the top 4. I think there is something that United have massively underperformed. They haven't performed to their level. Their level isn't Man City, Liverpool or Arsenal, but they can get better. But I think Amorim might be pragmatic enough to think at the moment he's going to have to be 4 at the back.
All right, longer term, if we project this out, just kind of to wrap this, I think. Oh, we haven't mentioned Onana. He's always had goalkeepers who were comfortable and who often participate in the build-up from the back to help break the press. In Onana, you have that, right?
Yeah.
And you're not going to shout at him when you say, get rid of it. If you're going to go back 3, you need more than 3 center backs. Obviously, we think, because it's the rational thing to do, Maguire, Lindelof, and Evans are gone. So you'll have salary space to play with. It would suggest to me that you're going to have to bring in probably at least 2 more central defenders, or guys who can play in central defense.
If you're going to play back 3, but you've got 3 in Euro, Lisandro, and De Ligt. So
but through the season, you're going to need 5, right?
Well, if Luke Shaw ever gets fit, then you've got an option there. But I think 1. I think 1 would be okay. I don't think you need 2 more.
All right. As long as you need somebody else to drop in, and you're not going to. And Dalot is not allowed to play center back in Ogden world. So central midfield. That's where we expect a signing, right?
Yeah.
From what you're saying.
I think that's what he'd look at and think he needs. He just needs that different option in the centre.
All right. I think with the wing backs, I feel pretty confident in saying that we might not see a signing there. I think you might wait for Shaw or Amas to give you another option. I think you can try Diallo, maybe one of the others, to see how that works out. And you've got Mazraoui. So I think you're okay there.
Yeah.
The other signing is going to be the number 10 position. If this Rashford, Garnacho, Bruno thing doesn't work out, I suspect you may want another center forward. And again, Xerxes maybe can be one of your 10s. I don't know. But Xerxes is very non-traditional, very different from Gyökeres and Højlund, right?
Yeah, and you may know more than me about this, but there's been a lot of noise recently coming out of Italy that a couple of clubs, including Juventus, might want to take him on loan in January, which I'm surprised at. But Xerxes hasn't settled at United. He's not really looked like the part. So I don't know how long his time is at United, whether he's something that Amorim will work with or they'll cut the losses. But I do think they need a centre forward. And obviously everyone will talk about Gyökeres. He is perfect for United. He's got that. He's ready-made. And I think he's worked under Amorim. But there's a lot of ifs and buts there. But I think if they had the option to sign him next summer, he would be a good signing.
Well, you have the option. He has a release clause, but
whether the option is financially viable for United, that's the issue.
I don't think it should be viable for anybody. You've invested in Højlund. Give Højlund. I mean, unless Amorim comes back and says, I can't work with Højlund, he's rubbish, or Højlund gets injured.
Well, if he gets injured, what have they got? They've got no other striker.
Yeah, no. Then maybe you look at Gyökeres. But for me personally, you have a finite number of resources, and there are other areas which are a priority because, as we point out in the piece, and as you've reported, United, who were basically a cash cow for most of their history, always delivering profits. The last 3 years, they've lost in excess of 250 million. It was touch and go with the profit and sustainability rules.
They may not make the Champions League next season, which will hit them again.
So they're in a position where, they will spend some money. They can spend some money, but they can't go and sign half a dozen starter quality players. That's not going to happen.
No, but I mean, with Højlund, I agree that there's something there to work with, but you can't go into the season with one centre forward. You
No,
just
I agree with you. That's why I would expect another striker, but I wouldn't expect the starter quality.
But so what quality are you going for? This is the problem United have had over the years, that they keep signing players that will boost the squad but not the starting 11. I think you've got to look to boost the starting 11. And if that means that Haaland has to drop out of the team,
Haaland is 21. So if you decide,
it doesn't score enough goals.
okay, that's fine. Well, why don't we let Amorim decide that, right? So if in the next
I think
6
you'll
months,
decide that fairly quickly.
Amorim comes back. Well, no, but he's got 6 months, right?
Yeah.
Between now and the end, because it's not like they're going to ditch Haaland now. Or in 6 months, Amorim comes back and says, "Yeah, it's not working out for Haaland. I don't like what he does. Whatever." Then you look in the market for alternatives. Maybe it won't be 6 months. Maybe it'll be 4 months or whatever, right? But when I look at this now, I think, and when more importantly, when they sat, when Barada and Ashworth and whatever sat down with Amorim and they looked at this and they planned out what the squad could look like, I would have to think Haaland is the name up front on the team sheet, because they have finite resources and because they have issues elsewhere and because he's so young and, he came back from an injury and whatever else.
Yeah, but Rasmus Haaland is never going to make Man United Premier League champions or Champions League winners. He's not. And
Right,
I think
you heard it here first.
would he get in the Liverpool team? No. The Arsenal team? No. The Man City team? No.
He's 21.
Yeah, but so what? Erling Haaland was 21 when he came over.
Okay, yeah, okay.
All right,
that's the benchmark.
sorry.
It's Erling Haaland.
Yeah, I take that back. That's unfair. But 21 is an age where a lot of players have actually shown whether they're going to make it or not. Now I think Haaland is fine as a squad player, but he's not a number one starter for Man United.
Okay, so does this mean you're saying that centre forward is an absolute priority?
If I was Ruben Amorim, absolutely, because Man United don't score enough goals, and Rasmus Haaland has been part of that team for 18 months that doesn't score enough goals. Why? Because he's a good striker, but he's not a great striker. And I think you have to get away from players that are okay. I mean, come on, look at his record in Italy with Atalanta. He's not ready.
8 goals all from open play and 20 starts. I think that's okay. But anyway, we're going to have to leave it there. United fans, there are reasons for hope. Like we said, for all the negativity, you are 4 points away from third place. You would be 3 points away from third place, if not for that bogus Danny Ings penalty. Am I right? And I think there's a lot of good young players. And also, by the way, the analytics nerds, if you look this up, you could complaining United don't score enough goals.
Well, they don't.
I think United have underperformed XG the most this season. I think they have something like 12 goals and their XG is right around 19.
And why is that? Because the strikers aren't good enough.
Or it could be happenstance and probability, and we'll get a regression to the mean. Anyway, it's going to be an interesting few months.